and the biggest takeouts from the life of the president moving forward, because the lessons learned, both from which to replicate and those probably which we need to avoid. We're now joined also by Honorable Jude Njomo. Let's start from there and pick it up even as we move forward very quickly. For you, what was your biggest takeout from the life lived by the late President Moi?
Well, I remember when President Moi came to power in 1978, I was also in school, and we thought like life would stop, because as we grew up, we knew the president was Kenyatta, and we knew he was everything. So when he was told that he's normal, we thought there would be chaos. And one thing we have to thank President Kenyatta about is that after the getting of our independence, most of African countries, when they got their independence, they went into war. There was guerrillas and guerrilla worship and what have you. But Kenyatta was able to maintain peace throughout his reign. Now, when President Moi took power, he came with what was called the Nyayo philosophy, that he would push on with what President Kenyatta was doing. And we also have to commend him for that, because there was a smooth transition. We know very well that there were some very strong forces that never wanted Moi to get to power, and they wanted to kind of grab power through unconstitutional means. But he was able to contain them in a peaceful way, and he was able to move on and have a good democratic system. And he went on to rule well for about 10 years, until the attempted coup in 1982. And I think whether I would like to see him as a dictator thereafter, Moi was not born a dictator. Moi was forced to dictate because things were not going as well as he would have liked. And maybe he thought that if he doesn't push things in that direction, then the country may end up in chaos. So he had to be firm. He had to make sure that things happen the way he wants them to happen. And that is why maybe many people saw him as having dictatorial tendencies. Right. But he had to put this country in order. But the biggest lesson that we have to learn from the Moi's era, if you have to draw a graph in terms of freedom of expression, a graph in terms of development, economic growth, you will see that the first 10 years, there was a positive growth. But after the 10 years, the growth was not as good, as fast as it was the first 10 years. And that would teach us that maybe after 10, 15 years, time for transition would be right.
Okay, I'll be jumping to Caleb in just a bit, because I want us to move forward now to the politics of the day. But even as we wind up with the late President Moi, I want to ask, because as we said, there were only two people who are cognizant of really what was going on at the time at this particular table. Honorable Kabogo, some people say that he was a gentleman up until the coup, and then after the coup realized that people around him weren't his friends, and that's when the strong man kicked in.
From the one to the end.
It's not the coup
that he used to change his mood depending on what is going on.
So it wasn't the coup that affected this?
Straight when he came in, he had to deal with a few issues. Guys who were supposed to be pushing for the constitutional changes to stop him, power brokers from Kiambu, or what you'd call the Kiambu mafia. That was the Koinanges and the others. He stopped them. He managed to deal with them. Soft but firm. And that's who Moi was all the way.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Let's move it forward to present day politics and see how things are turning out. Honorable Amisi, let me come to you, because you briefly touched on the BBI as well, and it's a question very many people have been asking, that now that we're in this state of national mourning, flags are at half-mast, is this the space and time to have our rallies? Should we postpone them for this weekend, reflect on what we've done so far, look at the various legs, what we saw in Kitui, the utterances made in Mombasa and thereon, and really think probably this is the reset we need as to how we'll deal with these rallies moving forward. What's your take?
Yeah, just before I come back to that, I had something peculiar about Moi that should not escape our mind.
Right.
You look at his age, 100. In fact, Lin Jiru was saying he's not even 96 years, he's 102, 103. Maybe those days counting was not so definite. So it's more than 100 years. I mean, how many presidents have lived to such number of years, even ordinary Kenyans? And you actually look at his lifestyle. a simple lifestyle. I'm told he takes traditional meals. And this is something that even young generations like us, we need to learn from, because we are wondering what is consuming in our generation. And probably we also need to look at our lifestyle and the food we take. And this is something we need to learn from our president as well, because we all want to live long, and if he has managed this and you can copy what he has even been taking in terms of food, in terms of lifestyle, maybe keeping away from alcoholic drinks or whatever he did, but it's something that we can learn so that we keep our generation going. Now, back to BBI, I started by saying I think if the purpose of BBI was unity, how to make this country be harmonious, live together in one accord, then President Moi was actually the person who started it, because you can see how his government was able to bring the whole country together. The different tribes, were represented in the government, and there was this issue of tribalism was less during Moi's time, and it has just been enhanced later on after he left power. And we need to look at the countries, where did we go wrong from that time? Maybe from that juncture is where we started crying about tribalism, country not being together. Two tribes can take over the leadership of the country forever if they decide to. And that's where we are at the BBI. So I think first and foremost, we need to look at where things started going wrong before we even talk about the content of the BBI, whether it is genuine or not. But where did we start, the rain started beating us as a country, that we look at each other in terms of his last name, where he comes from. We are not able to, to just live and say, this is a president, irrespective of where he comes from, it doesn't matter, he is our president. So I think Moi is really the initiator of BBI, in my opinion, because he lived up to the spirit of BBI. Okay, but Honorable Hamisi, I'm still asking, as far as this weekend is concerned, we take a break, call it half time? I think so. I think we take a break until maybe Tuesday, after is late to rest, because we also need to reflect. This is 24 years of leadership. We need to reflect where, if people are complaining, and I want to concur with my friend. The generation that is complaining about Moi, it is our generation. People did not even have a chance to feel his leadership. We were not there, most of us. Some of us we came at the sunset years of his leadership. We do not know. If you look at the generation of the Mudavadis and the Railas, they talk so well about the person. But the new generation, probably the leaders also need to know the legacy, because it is ultimately the legacy that will live for generations. The generation will always be judging you by what they have had, not by what they saw or felt, by what they had. So the legacy of a leader is very important, because it will live forever. Because some of us, 18 years, people are abusing him, where they don't care whether it's whatever, just because of what they have had. This is the kind of a person he was, a dictator. And by the way, dictatorship there is a thin line between being a dictator and being firm. Sometimes when you become firm, you are perceived as a dictator. And probably you want to be firm so that things are done in the right way, or in the way that you think. So I think the BBI should stop for now until maybe in the next 2 weeks. And I'm also thinking that it's not going the right way. I'm a proponent of BBI, you know that from the word go. I'm in ODM, and I'm in the proponent of the handshake. It was a good thing. But they need to really twist on how the rallies are going. They're also taking a divergent... Okay, we're talking about that as well, Honorable Hamisi. Ben, let me come to you, because you've been observing since it started day one from Kisii up until Kitui, I'd assume close to your backyard as well. And it feels like, from a rally level, and even as you look at the life of a statesman, the legacy that people are talking about in terms of the late president striving to unite Kenyans, it's a good time to look back at the effort that our president is trying to make now, because he said if there's one thing he will make sure he does by the time he leaves office is unite Kenyans. The vehicle for that is this BBI, but as they say on the ground, things are looking different.
Totally different, and Jeff, we have to agree. You know, they have been singing and dancing. I've seen them on podiums saying that nobody can stop reggae. But we thank God that the passing on of Moi has stopped reggae. because the noise...
Really?
Yes. The noise was becoming too much and unacceptable. And one thing I want President Uhuru Kenyatta to be able to reflect on, his predecessor Moi never went around holding rallies and people dancing on podiums to call Kenyans to unite. He demonstrated and he led from the front. President Moi, actually, if you look at even the composition of his cabinet, since 1978 up to 2002, was genuinely reflective of the face of Kenya. When you look at the composition of the PSs that served during Moi, it was truly a reflection of the face of Kenya. And that is what kept this country united. Rallies and dancing on podiums to reggae music is never going to unite this country. It must be demonstrable. And my challenge to my friend here, Caleb, as they go on, perhaps after we interm Moi, is they need to go back and genuinely reflect and realize that this country requires service. This generation you are seeing that is complaining about either the legacy of Moi and even the current legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta is because genuinely they feel shortchanged on so many fronts. We have to be candid with ourselves. And this is because we have currently a population in excess of 15 million young people. The generation I told you that was born after 1978 aged below 42 years. And they comprise actually almost 70% of the national population today. These people are not interested in stories. What Kenyans are looking out for are practical solutions that can put money in their pockets, period. And that is not going to be achieved through funny rallies, people dancing and saying all manner of things. In fact, if you look at the tone and the texture that BBI has adopted, it is dividing this country worse than it has ever been since independence. And this thing must be brought to a stop. Leaders must sit down, reflect deeply, and agree on the way to go forward. We are not going to achieve unification by exclusionism, by excluding certain parts of this country or certain individuals because we hold divergent views. In fact, one thing I want to agree with Governor Kabogo here is that Mzee Moi was extremely patient. Because at that particular time, you know, we had a constitution that was not anywhere near what we have today. And having come from a colonial era and having served under a strongman, the first president, Jomo Kenyatta, Moi had the capacity to really go rogue. We saw many of his peers in Africa who really went rogue, and where they were really the strong man. Despite the few instances where we all know, at least he really demonstrated a lot of patience in terms of divergence of views. And that's why, to a large extent, since the early 90s up to 2002, there were many constitutional reforms that were witnessed, actually under his tenure, that we may never perhaps experience under any other president. So my challenge would be our leaders today really need to sit and agree that we have a nation to build in excess of 50 million Kenyans, and too much talk without anything on the ground is not going to achieve anything. Okay. That is actually what I would advise the BBI proponents.
Okay. Honorable Jomo, let me come to you as well, because some quarters and some citizens are talking about the fact that instead of our political class getting on stage talking about the referendum and the Prime Minister, can they all go up there and talk about the economy? Talk about the situation that we are in, issues that are actually affecting us, other than are you for or against this referendum?
These things must be done all together, because as a country, there are so many things that happens within a country. So we cannot talk about economy and not talk about politics, because each affects the other. But I'm very, very concerned that as we are politicking, our economy is going downward. True. You know, and things are not happening right. I know today there are one of the things that is affecting our country is that most of the contracts that are happening in our country is being done by foreigners. And that is what is affecting our economy. Because, say, like when we give a foreign company a contract, they import all the raw materials that they need for their contract. They come even with labor that can be gotten from this country. They come with it from out there. Right now, as we speak, all the electrical contractors in Kenya are in court because Kenya Power and Lighting is advertising for works, and they are making sure that they formulate the tender document in such a way that no Kenyan company can qualify to tender for those jobs. They're in court now. They're in the Public Procurement Oversight Authority. So as we are politicking, our technocrats, who are very good at making their money through funny tenders, are selling our country to foreigners. So we cannot say that we are going to stop doing politics and concentrate on economy, or concentrate on economy and not do politics. We must know how to balance the two. So what I would say about the BBI rallies, yes, the country is mourning. We must put some things aside. We mourn and respect the president, because for 24 years he was our president and we respected him, and we used to call him Mutukufu Rais. So we must now mourn and put him to rest. Then we continue with business as usual. As for the rallies, my friend says that President Moi was not doing these rallies. He was very good at doing these rallies. I remember immediately when he came to power, he started doing the soil erosion gabions. And every weekend you would see him going to Kitui, going to, everywhere. It was soil erosion. It was building of gabions. And you'd see him pull up his sleeve and putting those stones in the gabions. But actually these were political rallies. He was popularizing himself. In fact, I remember a couple of years later, there was this mass choir where you would have like 10 primary schools forming one choir and sing Tujenge Kenya, those songs. So he was very good at that. But that does not mean that he put aside development. He would do politics over the weekends. Then during the week, we continue with our development. And those are some of the things that we can emulate from him. That we can do politics and we can build our country and move on. We can differ as politicians. We can differ as political parties, but that does not mean that we become enemies. We still work together and build our country together.
Okay, fantastic stuff. I'll come to Honorable Kabogo. Actually, there's a question here at Maisha too, saying that it's impossible to please everybody when you're ruling a country or anything. Binadamu ni mtu ngumu sana. Let me come to Honorable Kabogo, because you've been at the top of the
I agree with that sentiment.
cabinet level.
You can never please everyone.
Do you have to really find
governing is about the greater good of the economy of the republic. You're talking about the economy on BBI. As a leader, you should be able to balance.
Do we have that balance right now?
What is it that you will do to make Kenya a better place? That's what a leader should be worried about. But when leaders start thinking about what is it that I will do to make myself govern more, to make myself more powerful, and this is where these things are all about. I'm happy that there is a pause on the BBI meetings. And what my advice to the BBI Governing Council or the committee that is running BBI, can you reflect and see whether you are achieving what it is that you wanted or aimed at achieving with the BBI meetings? I did not expect the meetings to have just the political giants go there and speak. Why don't we have a representative of every ward in that county that they have gone to say what it is that the ward has discussed, what is it that they want in the constitution? Do we just want to change the constitution because we want to accommodate a few fellows? So what happens when those fellows die? Because they will die. You will die.
Right.
More is gone. Next is you and me. If we're in line, that is the way we will go. How will Kenya be 50 years from now?
Absolutely.
So they should go and reflect on the issues that make us have a bad economy. Why is it that we cannot move from a poor country to a middle-class economy? What can help us? Is it adding government executive? Is it doing the things that are being proposed by these groups? In my mind, actually, you've had Mheshimiwa Jude Jomo talking about contractors and how they come with everything. Yes, it is true. But on the other hand, Jude Jomo is an MP. Laws are made in Parliament. What is it that our Parliament is not, where is our Parliament unable to deal with some of these things? You understand? And Jude Jomo on his own will not manage. There must be collective responsibility of the House, because it's a House of Representatives. Right. What is it that the House is doing now about taxation? Kenyans are crying everywhere about serious taxation. We are the most highly taxed nation in the world. It is not President Kenyatta on his own. He has a cabinet. He has a team. They are members of the Assembly, National Assembly, members of the Senate. They are there to represent us so that we are not stuck without representation. So these are the things that, in my mind, BBI should be dealing with. The last issue of elections and fighting every 5 years is one small little thing. We have peace now because there is a handshake. Really, is it because of the people who have a handshake, or is it because of the nation of Kenya is divided during elections?
Right.
We must, differentiate what our problems are. So probably BBI, what they need to do now in the next 2 weeks is go back to the drawing board. Are they achieving what it is that they thought they wanted to achieve with these rallies?
Okay.
Because what I have seen in those rallies, honestly, like the very shameful thing that happened in Kitui,
yes.
I am not, I'm not a guy who likes Moses Kuria.
Right.
For obvious reasons. But really, give Moses Kuria an opportunity to be heard, if he's coming there to be heard.
Absolutely.
Also ask him, next time you come to a rally, come on time. Don't come and disrupt. But we want to see a game plan. What is it we want to achieve with BBI?
Okay.
If you are telling me BBI will come and give us 1 man, 1 vote, I will be right there supporting it. Because utumishi kwa wote means people, not animals, not acres. It is a big shame when the MP for Ruiru represents 159,000 voters, MP for Ijara, 22,000 voters, and their vote has equal power, weight inside the House.
An interesting
When are we
question
going to
was
change that?
and I want to pose this because we have 2 members of parliament right here.
You understand?
For that.
I'm saying
Yeah.
they need to take the initiative. Because some of these things don't even require BBI. Some of these things do not require constitutional changes. We cannot keep amending our constitution every 5 years.
True.
There are countries that live without any constitution. Britain, for example. When is it that we will realize that everyone has a stake in this thing, and what is it that we will do? I'm against creating positions just to benefit people.
Okay. Let me get to Honorable Amisi on this, because that accusation, I'm sure you've heard severally.
Yeah.
Parliament is sleeping on the job.
Absolutely,
It's been overpowered by the executive. They're running around talking about the BBI, but where were they when we needed them to, show their might on the VAT bill or extension of the debt ceiling? Where were they as passionate about these particular issues? And it's been brought yet again. What's your take on this? In that, let us work with the institutions that we have where we are right now. BBI will come when it's ready. Right now, there are other things that can be fixed. Honorable Amisi.
I think we'll be living a lie if we look at Kenya in the eye and say that BBI is the wrong thing. We know where this country has come from. We know the risk you are at the blink of collapsing as a nation. And the nations have actually gone to war against each other or internally. But here we are conversing as a nation without war, without coming out of fighting. It has happened to so many countries to reach where we are to just talk as a nation. However, the formula of talking doesn't matter, but at least we are talking as a nation. We are conversing here and trying to express whether it is unfair competition from foreign contractors, whether it is parliament that has let Kenyans down, but at least we are conversing as a nation on the way forward. This is something that could not have happened elsewhere. It is something that we need also to give it and say that it was a good thing. What most leaders don't feel, they only capture on this thing of the prime minister and the position. Remember, the BBI has 9 points. Those 9 points are all covering all these things we are talking about: shared prosperity, ethos, corruption. Because corruption is also another thing that you should not just close our eyes on. It is bringing this country down. So all these 9 points, they are all in the BBI. We need not just look at one thing of leadership and executive, change of the executive structure alone. And we cannot delink economy from politics. They all go together. We cannot, because we look at countries that have been at par with Kenya. We talk of the Scandinavian nations, the South Koreas. What difference they do to the economy? They do not enjoy the natural gas, the oil, like the Saudis and the rest. So what different things they do? that they are almost competing with the other nations that enjoy these natural resources. They looked at their positioning, the global positioning of these countries. Itself was a potential for them to tap into the global flow of income. That's why the companies are setting up in Singapore. There is a flow of income to the country. That's where Kenya is. Our geopolitical positioning, it is a catalyst to help us draw world to others. Right. That's where our energy is. So as a nation, we should have looked at what is our capacity. We don't grow. The economy cannot come down like manna from heaven. We need to look at what is our capacity as a nation.
That's why they're asking, as enhancing the country's capacity. Yes. As Parliament, are you sleeping on the job? Most people say
Parliament,
that what should have been done.
Myself, I'm not sleeping on the job. I've given proposals in many different forums. I've put in bills and motions, but the Parliament is consisting of 349 members drawn from different political parties with different manifestos. So it is a collective responsibility. It is not an individual to say that you are a member of Parliament and you are crying. I cannot pass a motion as a single member of Parliament. I need a collective responsibility. So we also need to talk about why is it that there are people who cannot, why is it that the Parliament has the capacity to make things move better in this country, and yet we are not using it to move the country forward? Why is it that is the Parliament self-complaining? Why are we at the mercy of the executive? Why are we looking independent and yet we are not independent? Those are the things we need to look at. Where are the gaps? In fact, somebody was telling me that it comes a time when we really need to pass a law, and something that I'm going to even propose, that people must be held accountable for the manifestos and the promises they make to wananchi. Let us not carelessly come and say we are going to build a stadium, something you won't do. You just carelessly lie to Kenyans. Then later on you change to big 4, 3. It is not fair for 5 years, 10 years. Leaders keep on telling Kenya things that are not possible. So people must be held accountable. It actually become a criminal offense to not commit to your manifestos or promises that you made to Kenyans. Yeah, because that's where we go wrong as a country. Because what is the duties of Parliament? Legislation, the oversight of the executive. Are we doing the oversight? No, we are not. Let
me come to another parliamentarian as well. That position as a member of Parliament and also as a member of the Budget Committee on the issue of taxation, and that Parliament is sleeping on the job. You see, as a member of the Budget Committee, every year we have brought a budget by Treasury, which has collected all the requirements of all the ministries. And they say, this is what we require to provide to our ministries and departments so that our economy can grow. Now, on the other hand, they have to tell us, where are we getting this money? It is through taxation, it's through doing this, A, B, C, D. So when you are given that, you must balance both sides of the divide. If this is the much we are getting as revenue, this is what we need to spend. So if you decide to reduce revenue, you'll either reduce taxation or you reduce wherever the government is getting its money from. So for you to do that, you must also reduce the development. So to strike a balance, you must have some level of taxation, which is not going to hurt wananchi and which is going to propel our economy to move to the next level.
Okay, but I want to jump on that because you've mentioned that as well, because even as we talk about the budget committee and the budgeting process, let's not forget some utterances that were made by Katondo MP Moses Kuria concerning the committee and the budget and the taxes, and how even what we were doing wasn't in best faith as far as the country is concerned. Operating, we had our loan book hadn't been fully disclosed. There's a lot of impropriety going on within the committee. What's your take?
I think that was blown. It was blown out of proportion.
Was there some truth to it?
It was not the truth. In fact, we had just come from a meeting the previous week with the new acting minister for finance, Honorable Yakul Atani, and what he said is that we have been pushing our economy to the edge, because what we do, we give KRA unreasonable targets. We said KRA is going to collect 1 trillion. Then we budget on 1 trillion. But by the 2/3 of the year, we realize that KRA cannot be able to meet this target. So we do adjustment. Does that mean you are lying?
As a matter of fact,
That does not mean that you are lying to the public.
Okay.
What Moses Kuria did, whether it is right or wrong, or whether it is true or false, he was confessing what they have been doing to us. They have been lying to us.
Right.
That notwithstanding, the issue of budgeting, government gives its proposals on what line items they want to expend money on that particular year and how they would raise money to fund those activities. One of the expenses that government is putting large amounts of money on is paying our debts.
Yeah.
But those debts are picked by government for a period of time, and they are done through the House. Recently, very recently, there was a motion to increase the capping of debt, and they allowed it. So surely there must be ways of raising money to pay this debt. Otherwise,
in fact, had you not interrupted me, that is where I was going.
Our ports will be auctioned.
Okay, let him
That is where I was going.
So really,
When the Treasury brought
allow me to finish. So really, the issue of budgeting, proposals of how you will raise money to finance. Remember, during Moi's time, our budgets were 490 billion. We now have a budget of 1.9 trillion. How much of that money is going to go and pay loans?
Let's get Pastor who's a member of the budget committee to clarify.
What I was saying before I was interrupted by Honorable Kabogo is that to streamline the overambitious, because I don't think the purpose of the Treasury was to lie to the public. Treasury was just overambitious. They were overambitious in terms of the kind of developments that they would like to attain. So they have changed tact, that instead of having those overambitious targets where KIA is expected to collect so much, they wanted us to raise the debt ceiling. So that the kind of loans that we are having right now are very expensive. Some are local loans, which are even pushing our interest rates to the ceiling. So they would like to borrow some concessional loans at very concessional rates, which are going to offset the expensive loans that we have. And then we are not going to have now unrealistic targets in terms of collections.
Okay.
So that can stabilize our economy. And we thought it makes sense. So let us increase the debt ceiling so that now they can borrow from externally, sort out the local issues, sort out the loans that they have locally. And that will help our economy because the interest rates will go low. There will be money in the economy. People will be able to, to borrow from banks, and they'll be able to push the economy to the next level.
Okay, I want to take a short break. I want to take a short break because I have a commercial break, and I'll come back to both of you. I can see really are chomping at the bit that particular point as well. So I will take a short commercial break right now. If you want to chime in on the conversation, ask a question as well at K24 TV on Twitter. You can also SMS us on 21222. We are back after the break talking about this national debt. Seems like it's a key issue. If you want something clarified, you can do that right here after the break.